Fab4 Expression presents the Unapologetically Reborn podcast hosted by Cody Fullin and Alicia Lynch. This podcast is meant to support awareness and reflection, but it is not a substitute for professional mental health care. If you need support, please reach out to a licensed professional or a trusted resource. A downloadable workbook can be found by visiting our website www.unapologeticallyreborn.com.
Welcome back. Welcome back to Unapologetically Reborn. I am Cody, the stutterer.
I'm Alicia Lynch. All right, so we're finishing up our episode on why we can become addicted to people. And we left off with a quiz. We're going to go over some wounds in the scoring system. So let's jump right in because there's a lot to cover. So the rejection wound, if you receive that on the test, you may be telling yourself, I can't let them go. But what if the real pain is, I can't let go of what the rejection made me believe about myself? So rejection versus worth. A lot of people unconsciously conclude that they left, so I'm not lovable. They left, I'm not enough. They left, so something is wrong with me. But rejection doesn't automatically equal inadequacy. Sometimes people leave because they're emotionally unavailable. They're unhealthy. They're scared. They're incapable. The human mind tends to personalize things that were never actually about us. So what story did their rejection create about you? Ask yourself that. If you chose mostly B's for the visibility wound, you might not grieve being loved. You might grieve being seen. Growing up unseen teaches children my needs don't matter. My feelings are inconvenient. I should stay quiet. Attention belongs to someone else's crisis. A lot of us that grew up in homes in addiction, we suffer from this. Later, if someone finally sees us, and we lose them, it can be devastating. Not because the person was perfect, but because visibility became attached to them. So what have you spent your life trying to prove that you deserve to be noticed? And how have you spent your life trying to prove that you deserve to be noticed? What are the ways? Ask yourself that. If you chose mostly C's, the chosen wound, this cuts deep for people that have experienced absent parents, affairs, replacement, favoritism.
Oh.
The wound isn't, I lost them. The wound is they chose someone else.
Oh, that favoritism.
Yeah, you want to talk about favoritism?
No, I know people who had that problem.
Yeah?
Uh-huh.
Would you like to
say the person?
Elaborate?
No, it was about grades. They were the same. They were twins. One had good grades. Mm-hmm. The other one was a genius about things because the person didn't give it, didn't care.
Okay.
So one of the parents understood that,
mm-hmm.
but the mom was one of those people who, it's one of those moms who, you're not going to get into Harvard. That type of put more pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And one kid understood that and got straight A's. Other kid, who I knew, didn't give a shit.
Okay.
He just shrugged.
Mm-hmm.
So, it seems like the mom favored the younger son than
the one that got the butter grits?
Yeah.
Okay. So that wound isn't I lost them. The wound is they chose someone else. So psychologically, this could represent value, belonging, significance. This is why replacement often hurts more than abandonment. So ask yourself this: what if their choice says more about them than it says about my worth? If you chose mostly D, the abandonment wound, the fear isn't always losing a person, it's losing safety. So for some people, conflict feels like abandonment. Distance feels like abandonment. Silence feels like abandonment. The nervous system reacts as though survival is threatened. So you could have attachment injuries, emotional time travel, which we've discussed. Question to ask yourself: when someone leaves, how old do you emotionally feel? Many people don't say 50. They say 8, 10, 12.
18, because I'm still evil.
If you mostly chose E, the hope attachment, this may be the most misunderstood. So many people aren't attached to the person, they're attached to who they hoped they would become, what they imagined together, what this relationship represented. They're grieving possibility. Are you missing them? Or are you missing the future that you built around them? That's a pretty powerful distinction. So what if the reason that you can't let go isn't because the person was your soulmate? What if it's because they became connected to something deeper? So some people can become containers for worth, validation, belonging, safety, hope, identity. When they leave, they can feel like those things left too. You could have a visibility wound. Usually think I feel invisible. No one really knows me. I don't think I matter. I always feel overlooked. I listen to everyone else, but nobody listens to me. But those are often signs of, like I said, the visibility wound. What's a visibility wound? A visibility wound develops when a person's thoughts, feelings, needs, experiences, or identity are repeatedly ignored, dismissed, overshadowed, or unnoticed. Wound is nobody truly saw me. Being seen means being understood, being acknowledged, being recognized, being valued, being emotionally known. A child can have food, clothes, and a roof over their head and still feel profoundly unseen.
Deep.
How does this develop? Boy, this kind of touches on my book. In addicted, chaotic, or dysfunctional homes, attention often gets pulled towards the crisis.
Yeah, we got 21 minutes. Talk about a little bit about your book.
Oh, I'll leave a trailer at the end of the.
Okay.
I'll leave a trailer at the end of the segment about it. Right now, it's on Amazon. It's coming to Barnes and Noble. It's hopefully going to be in bookstores soon. Some libraries have it. Right now, the main place is Amazon.
Kindle, if you're.
Yeah, Kindle. I'm working on a audio version for Spotify, and I don't know if I'm going to put it on Audible. I haven't decided yet. But I will leave a trailer at the end of the recording. Also, YouTube. I have like 3 chapters, I believe. The first 3 chapters you can listen to and see if that's something you're interested. Not everybody came from a home of addiction, but If you did, this might be for you. Also have another one, survival mode. This is about emotional dysregulation. The first couple of chapters you can also watch on YouTube or at our website, unapologeticallyreborn.com. See if you like that. That's also on Amazon. Anyways, how this develops. In addicted, chaotic, or dysfunctional homes, attention often gets pulled towards the crisis. Okay? So the addicted parent, the angry parent, the sick sibling, the family drama. What does the child learn? My needs aren't the priority. Not because anyone sat them down and told them that, but because that's what the environment taught them. And then the child begins adapting to this. They become quiet, helpful, independent, low maintenance, invisible. And the adaptation helps them to survive, but later it creates problems. And that's what my book is precisely about. The message the child receives. Over time, the child may unconsciously absorb messages like, my feelings don't matter. Nobody notices me anyway. My problems aren't important. I shouldn't need anything. Other people are more important than I am. Speaking up only causes problems. And again, these beliefs are usually felt rather than consciously thought. So what's the difference between a rejection wound and a visibility wound? A rejection wound says, I'm not wanted. A visibility wound says, I'm not seen. Someone with a rejection wound feels being unwanted. Someone with a visibility wound fears being unnoticed. That's a subtle but important difference. So what it looks like in adulthood, chronic over-explaining. Oh, am I good for this? Yeah, this is what's hard for me about having a podcast, thinking clinically and over-explaining. But I want you to fully get the picture, and that's why I yap too much, I guess. But that's why we're here, and I'll, in all fairness. But in my personal life, it's a problem. So you desperately, it's true. I get it. I fully admit it. Because you desperately want to be understood. You don't want to just talk. You want someone to finally get it, see me, understand what I'm saying. So therefore, it makes it difficult to not talk and explain and over-explain and repeat yourself, because you're trying, at least for me, you're trying to paint a picture of what this is so that you're going to get it. Okay? So feeling lonely around other people, this is huge. You can be surrounded by people and still feel unseen, because visibility is not about proximity, it's about connection. So you become the listener. Many people live with visibility wounds, become excellent listeners. They know everybody else's story, but few people know theirs. Struggling to ask for help, they learned early, I should handle it by myself. I'm good for that. Feeling hurt when others forget. Someone forgets a birthday, misses an important event, doesn't ask how they're doing. The pain may feel much larger than the event because it touches the old wound. I'm good for this.
Oh, I know how you feel on that one.
Yeah? How so?
You know exactly how so.
Yeah?
A certain somebody, I won't say because it's mean.
Yeah? You feel like it's mean?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you want to continue or no?
No.
Okay. Imagine someone spends years feeling unseen. Okay, why certain relationships feel addictive. So you spent years feeling unseen, most of your life, whatever. And then a person comes along and they say, tell me about yourself. I get you. I see what you've been through. You're validated. Your feelings make sense. And for the first time in your life, you feel visible. This experience can be incredibly powerful. Not because that person that heard you is perfect, but because the person became associated, with you being seen. So when this relationship ends, the loss can feel like nobody's ever going to understand me again. That's why the attachment can feel so intense. So I had a friend for decades, and the only person that got into the same, had a brain like me, was kind of, I'm going to say the male version of me, was kind of my twin. And the only person that I've ever known that we could have the most intense, amazing conversations, and we could converse for hours about things that most people don't give a shit about. And I didn't have to. What was amazing about this relationship was that I didn't feel like I had to explain myself like I do with most people, because it was like he just instantaneously got it. You know what I mean? Just understood, just knew what I was saying, could basically finish my sentence, thought, knew what I meant, got me, understood me and my madness. And that to me was like powerful, because it was like a connection where somebody finally understands, and most people don't. So that's a really hard relationship to lose.
Do I know the person?
You do. We're not mentioning names, but yeah.
Okay.
So
I'll think of it.
The visibility trap. People with visibility wounds often spend their lives trying to earn visibility. They become achievers, caretakers, rescuers, perfectionists, people pleasers. Somewhere deep down, they're hoping, if I do enough, maybe someone will finally notice me. But visibility earned through performance rarely heals the wound, because the question remains, would anyone see me if I stopped performing? You could ask growing up, things that you ask yourself. Did you feel heard in your family? Did anyone ask you how you felt? Were your emotions taken seriously? Did you feel known? Not for today. Do you struggle to ask for help? Do you often feel overlooked? Do people know the real you? Do you spend more time listening than sharing? In relationships, do you become deeply attached to people who make you feel understood? Do you feel devastated when those people leave? Does being truly seen feel rare? One thing that might really resonate with you, many adult children of addiction, they learn to be loved. They have to be useful. We'll get into a series on this. So they became needed. But being needed is not the same as being seen. It took me a long time to learn that. People appreciate when they're seen. They may rely on them. They may even love them. Yet the person still feels invisible because nobody truly knows what's happening inside of them. Where are we at? 18 minutes?
Yep.
Visibility wound isn't created because nobody looked at you. It's created when nobody consistently recognized your inner world, your fears, your needs, your pain, your joy, the real you. Sometimes the reason we're so attached to certain people isn't because they saved us. It's because for a moment they made us feel seen. Given what you've shared over time, what am I trying to say? Your experiences, they're not always fully understood. So for the email that I received, for confidentiality purposes, I didn't read the entire thing, but
keep on emailing.
Yeah.
We won't say your name.
No, the name was fine. I didn't mention any last names, but I didn't read the entire email just because I was asked not to. Okay. An abandonment wound develops when a person repeatedly experiences a loss of emotional safety, connection, protection, or reliability. The core fears become, the people I need won't be there when I need them. Over time, that fear can evolve into everyone leaves eventually, or I can't depend on anyone, or if I get attached, I'll get hurt. So physical is, versus emotional abandonment. Let's just go over that quickly. Physical abandonment examples: a parent leaves, there's a divorce, a death, an incarceration, you're in foster care, there's a chronic absence. These are easier to recognize because we feel like they're kind of common sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Emotional abandonment, these are harder to see. So things that people don't see: a parent consumed by addiction, a parent emotionally unavailable, a parent who never asks about your feelings, a parent who's present physically but disconnected emotionally. So what does the child learn? I'm alone with my feelings. This can be just as painful as physical abandonment. Because what happens to the child's mind? Children are naturally dependent. So when connection becomes inconsistent, children often don't think my parent is struggling. Instead, what do they come up with? 9 times out of 10.
Well, it's their fault.
Something must be wrong with me. Or I need to try harder. If I'm good enough, they'll stay. So the child creates strategic strategies to prevent future abandonment. So then eventually this becomes beliefs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Abandonment wounds often create beliefs like people always leave. I can't depend on anyone. Love doesn't last.
It's all on me.
Yep. If people get too close, they'll leave. I have to take care of myself. I'm alone. So many adults don't consciously say these things, but their behavior often reveals them. What abandonment looks like in adulthood: fear of being left. Most people, I shouldn't say most people, many people carry this into relationships, marriages. Fear of being left. Even small signs can trigger panic: delayed texts, canceled plans, emotional distance, conflict. The nervous system may interpret these as danger. Clinging. Some people become highly dependent, not because they're weak, but because their nervous system is trying to prevent another loss. Avoidance. Others do the opposite. They avoid attachment entirely. The logic becomes, if I never need anyone, nobody can abandon me. It's a hypervigilance, constantly monitoring relationships. Questions like, are they mad at me? Are they pulling away? Did I do something wrong? Are they losing interest? The person is scanning for signs of departure. So for a child, attachment equals survival. Children literally depend on caregivers, so the nervous system treats abandonment as much more than sadness. It experiences its danger. That's why adults with abandonment wounds may have reactions that feel overwhelming, such as panic, desperation, obsession, anxiety, emotional flooding.
So is that why they have people have panic attacks?
No, not necessarily, but in some instances. The body isn't reacting only today, it's reacting to old survival programming. That's why a lot of people have panic attacks. Not entirely, but a lot of the time. So what's the difference between an abandonment wound and a rejection wound? This distinction is important. So a rejection wound is a core belief: I'm not good enough. An abandonment wound, the core belief is people leave. A rejection wound questions self-worth. An abandonment wound questions safety and connection. However, someone can have both, and many people do. So I'll take it back to addiction again. When addiction is present, children often experience repeated emotional abandonments. The parent is there, but they're not really there. The parent is home, but unavailable. The parent loves them, but addiction gets their attention. The child receives a confusing message: I matter, but not enough. That inconsistency can create a profound abandonment wound. So the hidden grief. Many people with abandonment wounds aren't grieving one person. They're grieving a lifetime of departure. So every breakup, every betrayal, every time someone didn't show up, and every time they felt alone, the current loss becomes connected to every previous loss that they've had. So here's some questions for you. When someone pulls away, what do you fear most? Ask yourself these things. Do you fear being alone or being left? Do you struggle to trust people will stay? Do you become anxious when people are unavailable? Do you expect relationships to end? Now we're going to complete a sentence. When people leave, I tell myself blank. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so here's some common answers. I'm not important. I don't matter. I'm alone. Nobody stays. I should have been better. This sentence often reveals your wound. An abandonment wound isn't just about who left, it's about what they're leaving taught you to believe. So sometimes the deepest healing isn't convincing yourself that nobody will ever leave again. It's learning that even if someone does leave you, you will not abandon yourself. The last distinction is often where recovery begins. People spend years trying to guarantee that others will stay. But real healing comes when they develop enough internal safety that someone else's departure would no longer determine their worth or their ability to survive. What is a chosen wound? At its core, the chosen wound is the pain of believing someone else was chosen over me. The deepest fear isn't necessarily I lost them. It's I wasn't the one they wanted. The wound becomes tied to questions like, why wasn't I enough? What did they have that I didn't? Why was someone else more important? Why wasn't I worth choosing? Children don't just need love, they need real, significance. Remember, we're talking about inner children here. They need to feel I matter. A chosen wound can develop when an inner child repeatedly experiences situations that feel like, addiction was chosen over me. A new spouse was chosen over me. A sibling was favored over me. Work was chosen over me. Another family member was chosen over me. Someone else's need always came first. The child doesn't understand adult complexity, so they often simplify it to, if I mattered enough, they would have chosen me. So let's use addiction again as an example. A child of addiction may repeatedly experience, Mom loves me, but alcohol wins. Dad loves me, but drugs win. The child receives a confusing message, I'm loved, but not enough. That can plant the seed for a chosen wound. Not because the parent didn't love them, but because the addiction repeatedly came first. Let's use another one, the absent father example. Imagine a father who remarries, starts another family, invests in those relationships, becomes more available elsewhere. The child often interprets it as he chose them. Even when the situation is more complicated, the emotional experience can be devastating. The wound isn't simply, my father wasn't there. The wound is, I was replaceable. Why being replaced hurts so much? Psychologically, being replaced threatens something fundamental. Most people can eventually accept the relationship ended, but replacement often feels different because it triggers comparison. The brain starts asking, what's wrong with me? What's better about them? Why wasn't I enough? Now the loss becomes connected to identity. The core belief. People with a chosen wound often carry beliefs such as I'm replaceable. I'm second best. I don't measure up. Other people are more valuable. I'm not worth fighting for. I have to earn my place. Many don't consciously realize these beliefs are operating what it looks like in adult relationships. extreme sensitivity to comparison, feeling threatened by ex-partners, social media, co-workers, siblings, friends, not because they're jealous people, but because comparison activates this old wound. Needed reassurance. Questions like, do you still love me? Are you happy with me? Would you leave me? The person isn't seeking attention, they're seeking safety. Difficulty letting go, especially when someone chooses another partner. The obsession often becomes, why them? Why did the relationship end? It should be the question, but instead it's why them? Competing for worth. Some people respond by becoming perfectionists, high achievers, caretakers, rescuers. The unconscious goal becomes, I'll become so valuable, nobody can choose someone else. The difference between the event and the meaning. So this is a critical distinction. The event, dad remarried. The meaning, he chose them over me. The event, my partner left. The meaning, someone else is better than me. The event, I wasn't invited. The meaning, I don't belong. The wound often lives in the meaning. So if this person had chosen you, what would that have proven? Ask yourself this. Common answers. I'm lovable. I'm enough. I matter. I'm worthy staying for. I'm important. Now that you found your wound, because the issue was never just the person, the issue was just what their choice symbolized. Hidden truth. This is something that many people don't realize. People with chosen wounds often spend years trying to be selected by partners, parents, friends, bosses, audiences, family. But the deeper longing isn't actually selection, it's significance. They want proof that they matter. So they may have spent years feeling like substances were chosen over me. Chaos was chosen over me. Another family member was chosen over me. Someone else's needs were chosen over me. And the painful conclusion can become, I wasn't worth choosing. You might end this section, in your head with thinking about losing a, competition. A chosen wound isn't really about losing a competition. It's about wondering whether your value depends on being selected. Healing begins when you realize that someone else's choice cannot determine your worth, because your value was never supposed to be decided by the people who failed to see it. The last part often lands deeply with the people who spent years trying to prove that they were worth choosing. How the wounds create emotional addiction. So let's imagine that someone has all 4 wounds. Okay, rejection, I need to feel enough. Visibility, I need to feel seen. Abandonment, I need to feel safe. Chosen, I need to feel significant. Then they meet this person. They make them feel enough, understood, safe, chosen. And suddenly that person isn't just a partner, they've become a solution, a medicine, a symbol, a dream, a rescue plan. You can see why that loss is not necessarily just the relationship, but the symbol, or what this brought, what this meaning was. Once again, we're out of time. So hopefully the series gives some clarification on this entire topic. If you have any questions, please feel free to email us. Let us know whether we can read your email on air or whether you'd rather have it be confidential, and we will try to answer your questions online and on air. Thank you again for tuning in to Unapologetically Reborn. Anything you want to say?
No.
Thank you very much for joining us. Have a great week. And again, I hope this gives some clarification on why we can become addicted to other people or people in general. Have a great week. Thank you for watching. This is where survival ends and choices begin.
Goodbye.
They talked about addiction for years and years. The bottles, the bruises, the anger, the tears, the highs and the lows, the breaking apart, but seldom discussed what it did to a heart. Not the heart of the addict alone in the fight, but the child lying awake almost every night. The child learning silence instead of trust. The child taught survival because they must. The child counting footsteps, reading each tone, trying to predict if the house felt like home. The child growing older but never quite free, still carrying fear no one else could see. Some never touched substances, smoke, or a drink, yet still lived much closer to darkness than think. Because addiction does not simply stay inside one person and fade away. It lingers in children who learn to hide pain, who smile on the outside while drowning in rain, who grow into adults still searching to find why anxiety follows the back of their mind, why love feels unsafe, why peace feels so strange, why their whole nervous system braces for change. And somewhere inside them still echoes the plea, can somebody finally understand me? That question became a book for the children who learned to disappear, who carried survival for year after year, for the adults still asking, why am I this way? While carrying wounds they still hide today. Its pages were written to help people see the child underneath all the anxiety, to show them their struggles did not make them weak, but came from the chaos they never could speak. Because children can survive almost anything true, but surviving too long changes something in you. Wounds ignored do not just fade, they follow every choice we've made. Through anxious hearts and sleepless nights, through endless internal hidden fights. Unapologetically Unseen by Alicia Lynch. On Kindle for free starting May 23. Unapologetically Unseen, written by Alicia Lynch. Introduction. Childhood is often imagined as a season of innocence, a time defined by play, safety, and the steady presence of parental love. For many children, however, that picture looks very different. When addiction enters a home, childhood is not simply altered, it is fundamentally redefined. For children growing up with a parent struggling with addiction, the home can become an unpredictable and emotionally confusing place. The stability and safety that children rely on to understand the world may be replaced with uncertainty, secrecy, and emotional inconsistency. What should be a place of comfort can instead become a landscape shaped by tension, shifting moods, and unspoken rules. This book invites you into that often unseen landscape. It explores what it means to grow up in homes where addiction casts a long and complicated shadow. In these environments, childhood unfolds differently. Many children learn early how to read the emotional temperature of a room, how to anticipate a parent's moods, and how to adapt to situations they cannot control. They develop survival skills long before they need them. This experience is often invisible to those outside the house. From the outside, life may appear normal. Inside, however, children may be navigating confusion, fear, and emotional needs that remain unspoken or unmet. Over time, these experiences shape how they understand relationships, trust, and even their own sense of worth. Some children grow up knowing exactly who they are. They are encouraged to explore their interests, express their emotions, and develop their sense of identity within environments that feel safe and predictable. Their childhood becomes a time of discovery, where personality unfolds naturally and gradually over time. But not every childhood unfolds that way. Some children grow up in homes where unpredictability becomes normal. Homes shaped by addiction, emotional volatility, and instability often require children to adapt in ways they cannot fully understand at the time. In these environments, survival becomes a priority. Children learn to observe carefully. They learn when to stay quiet, when to step in, when to take responsibility, and when to disappear into the background. These adaptations often happen quietly and automatically, long before the child has the language to describe what they are experiencing. Over time, these adaptations become patterns. The child who learns to keep peace may grow into an adult who feels responsible for everyone else's emotions. The child who learns to stay invisible may grow into someone who struggles to take up space in their own life. The child who carried responsibilities too early may become an adult who cannot seem to put anything down. For many people, these patterns remain confusing for years. They may notice themselves reacting strongly to situations that seem minor to others. They may struggle with boundaries, identity, or a persistent sense that they are responsible for more than their share. Often a quiet question begins to form. Why am I like this? For individuals raised in homes affected by addiction, this question often carries layers of confusion and self-doubt. Many of the patterns that develop in childhood are rarely discussed openly, leaving individuals to navigate their experiences without a clear framework for understanding them. Growing up in the shadow of addiction does not mean a child lacks strength. In fact, the opposite is often true. Many children develop remarkable resilience as they learn to adapt to circumstances beyond their control. They learn to endure, to observe, to survive, and sometimes to carry responsibilities far beyond their years. This book is not a story of blame or victimhood. It is a story of recognition. Unapologetically Unseen explores the emotional adaptations that often develop in children raised in addiction-affected homes, and how those adaptations can influence adult identity, relationships, and emotional well-being. It seeks to bring clarity to confusion, validation to silent struggles, and understanding to experiences many people carry quietly for years. Understanding these patterns creates an opportunity for change. Awareness allows individuals to separate who they are from the environments in which they were raised. And from that awareness, healing becomes possible. This is where that journey begins. If you or anyone you know could benefit from this book, please go to Amazon.com to order it. To celebrate the launch of this book, you can find it on Kindle for 99 cents. Your voice is a lighthouse towards someone else's healing, and reviews help others find resources. If you would be so kind to write a review after you have read the material, it would be greatly appreciated. The book has a built-in workbook to guide you in your journey. Thank you so much, Alicia Lynch.